Hello and welcome back to the Nerd Herd. I'm Michael.
And I'm Aaron, and this week we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. As we progress the channel, we are constantly trying to fix and improve things, try to put out a better product for you, keep things a bit more structured.
So we're going to be separating the show into a few different categories so that it's easier for us to keep things a little bit smoother, so that we can put out better product for you. The first topic for today's show is what's new in the gaming world. Um,
So, right now, the biggest announcement that we've seen, possibly all year to this point, is the release of the Nintendo Switch OLED Edition. They're trying to hold on to their kind of stronghold on the handheld industry, which they've always kind of dominated. Nintendo has put forth an update on their previous Switch in the OLED edition.
yeah, I'm going to pull it up right now and show the technical specs of the OLED edition. It's arriving in October 2021. It brings a new 7-inch OLED screen with a wider stand, an Ethernet LAN port, and an upgraded 64 gigs of internal storage, which is really big for the Switch.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Because
Yeah,
when I think the original was there's
30.
it's
They
somewhere on
doubled
this
it.
page, so they doubled it, which is really nice. But the question is at $350, are these improvements really worth it?
So here's the way I'm looking at it, and this is the research that I've done into this topic. It's a bigger screen, but it's really not much more other than that. The device itself is not much bigger in terms of holding it in your hands, physical size. Um, but the screen expanded by 0.8 inches. So essentially, what they're saying is they're getting rid of those bezels, they're getting rid of that big black border that you've seen, which is great. It is going to be a good bit heavier. It's going to be close to a tenth of a pound heavier, which doesn't sound much, but when you're sitting there holding it like this for hours, it does get heavy. The biggest functional improvement that we've seen was the built-in storage, which is going to go up to 64 gigs, as you mentioned. However, there's no improvement in the video quality when it's docked. We still don't have any 4K output. There's no new CPU, no increase in RAM. We didn't get any improvement in the battery size at all. Nintendo fans, including myself, and I know you, Michael, have waited 4.5, 5 years for a new Switch console. And personally, at $350, I'm really disappointed with this. There hasn't been any change to it. It's a bigger screen. Woohoo, great, fine. In 4 years, the Xbox, when the Xbox One came out, went from one of the most controversial garbage consoles we've seen to the Xbox One X, which is one of the most commercially successful we've seen in the new generation. So 4 years is a lot of time to make improvements, especially nowadays. What are your thoughts, Michael?
So my biggest thing with it is Nintendo knows that they have a great product right now. And yes, it would be great to see one, a better battery life out of the new Switch, because that is like my biggest gripe is like when you're playing a game, like I like to play Pokemon, you may get 2, 3 hours out of the battery life if you're playing
Just
handheld mode, which that's mainly the way that I play my Switch is in handheld
yeah,
mode.
that's the point of the Switch is to be handheld.
It is nice that it is a little bit bigger screen, but like you said, in handheld mode, still 720p, which nowadays you've got phones that run at 1080, 140, 120 hertz.
Yeah,
So there's really not, I mean, there's kind of an excuse because they're trying to compact so much power into such a little device. But at the same time, it's like, come on, 720p, we could do better.
well, the other thing that I saw and that I read is that there's really no noticeable change to the Joy-Cons, which is surprising considering that for the first few years that the Joy-Con and the Switch was sold, there was a serious problem with just drift coming around after 3 to 4 months. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't change a whole lot with that. Um,
I'm gonna stop you right there. My other somewhat biggest issue with them coming out with a new Switch that I know a lot of people have this issue with Nintendo is Bluetooth compatibility with Bluetooth headsets.
yeah,
That is my biggest
absolutely.
gripe because nowadays all these phones they did away with the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So
Yeah, why are you putting out a brand new console that still has an aux jack? Very few anything has that anymore. I mean, build a PC, you'll have one. You get certain older phones, certain budget phones, they'll have one. Top of the line things do not have that 3.5 mil jack anymore, so the demand for it's down. The products that are compatible with it are going down.
Hmm. And
It's not.
it's so much nicer to have a Bluetooth headset that isn't like has a wire in front of you because most of all of my headsets now are Bluetooth except for this one because this is obviously like you said I've got a PC so I have a headphone jack on my PC.
So, for those of you that are disappointed in the new Switch and are looking for a bit of a new option and might just happen to have a PC, lucky for you, there's another product that's come out that's going to try and take the crown in the handheld game, which Michael is going to be introducing the Steam Deck.
Now this one I am actually really excited for.
Yeah.
This is coming from Valve that is the company of Steam and they essentially took the idea of a Switch and made a PC version of it in handheld mode. Now, there's a lot of speculation and issues of specs and everything and how it's going to turn out. The pricing of it though is a little the
Well, if you,
50 bucks more for a 64 gig version of this compared to the 350 for the Switch. If it was me, I'd probably choose this
yeah.
because if you're anything with a PC, if you're a PC gamer, you have your whole Steam library in handheld mode, which is really
So,
nice.
what's also really nice about this is I'll go into the specs for those of us who like specs. Whenever I see a new technology, whenever I see a new computer come out, the first thing I'm like, oh, what's the processor? I'm a nerd. He's a nerd. That's the whole point of this show. But the CPU does actually have a custom AMD processor designed specifically for this. It does combine the Zen 2 and the RDNA 2 softwares, so it does have the integrated graphics in it.
And it's a
It
4-core, 8-thread processor.
which is fantastic for a handheld for
Mhm.
anything these days. So it's going to be a powerhouse just based on what we've seen. Just like the new Switch, it's going to have a 7-inch touchscreen and up to 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM. So they've already improved in every single section on the Switch. It looks like it's going to be about 2 inches longer than the Switch.
The
The
only
extras, good.
the only thing that they didn't do that I wish they would have is the resolution is 1280 by 800.
Yeah, it is 780p, so it's not going to be
It's not going to be
great.
great, but it's a 40 watt hour battery as well. So the battery life, you also got to understand there's a lot of power in this machine and
Yeah.
you're not going to get a whole lot of battery life out of this thing, but for what you're getting for the price for 50 bucks more compared to the Switch OLED, it's so much more powerful. And selling point for me, it has Bluetooth capabilities.
It does have Bluetooth 5.0. The Switch is going to be the deck is going to be about 2 inches longer than the Switch, so it's going to be a good sized handheld. It's going to be about, I think, 9 inches long is what it came out as. But that space also, not only does it have your joysticks, it's got these really cool touch pads built in right underneath them, so that's going to be really cool. So the question is, how exactly does it stack up to the Switch? For me, from what I've seen on both, I really don't think they're going to compete much. Michael, I think you'll agree we both came up as console gamers. The console community and the PC community keep themselves separate. The Nintendo kind of has their own niche. PC has its own niche. I don't expect them coming back and really fighting each other for this. What are you thinking?
You have a point. I think the biggest thing with like Nintendo in this is Nintendo has a certain community to them because of Mario and all the Nintendo branded games and stuff like that that will keep people coming back to Nintendo all the time. So anytime there's a new Mario game out, you've got those people that love playing Mario that are going to come back to Nintendo. But on the other hand, the Steam Deck is gearing towards PC players that want to be able to play their games on the go without buying a laptop. This is easily put in your hands and be able to game. Like I have a laptop that I game on, but it's not just like be able to pick it up and start playing type of thing.
So the other thing that I saw about the Steam Deck that I'm kind of questioning a little bit is if you remember the PS Vita, which was an awesome thing. The last time the Nintendo really got a run for its money in terms of handhelds, is it had compatibility for mobile data. From what I'm reading, the Steam Deck will not have room for an SD or not an SD card, a
SIM
what do they
card.
call it? A SIM card. for mobile data, which is going to be a bit tricky. So you have to have everything downloaded at home. If you're on the go, you really can't download stuff. You can't play online. So I think that's kind of a big fault here, is that you're not going to have the compatibility to truly play online on the go. I think it's going to be more of a device for, oh man, my computer's all the way downstairs and you want to play Rocket League. I'm going to sit in the living room and play Rocket League. I think that's really going to be what this is more about.
Which, to that point, if you look at the Nintendo Switch, it doesn't have that capability either.
No, it
But
doesn't.
if you're wanting to play this on the go, you might be sitting at Starbucks and want to hop on
True.
some Rocket League for a minute or something like that. Or let's say you're on a road trip and you have the data on your phone to use as a hotspot. You can do that. Um, but I'm more excited about the Steam Deck. I have the original Switch and
That's all
I
I need.
like it, but I wouldn't spend the money
What,
to upgrade.
what, see, this is where I am, and we kind of had this conversation. I can pay $350 for what I already have with a little bit bigger screen, or I can pay $450 for something brand new that fits another niche that I have, a product we haven't seen before that's actually going to fill in another void. I'd much rather spend that extra $100 on the deck than I would on the Switch. Um, but with any new big release, we do have to ask the question, and we did mention that everybody stays in their own little niche, but we have to ask, what are we going to be playing on those games, Michael?
On the systems, I mean, obviously with Nintendo, if I hadn't the if I were to get the new Nintendo, it's obviously going to be like Mario, Mario
Mhm.
Kart. Uh, you got all those great games that you can play in handheld and stuff like
But
that.
it's the same thing that we've had
Yep.
with the Steam Deck. You get all these new PC releases, you get everything new that comes out on the Steam store. It's a better product. Let's just say it.
I mean, yeah, it is because like I have a ton of games in my Steam library, and with this, I'd be able to just download them, play Rocket League and stuff like that on the go. Now, I'm a little worried because Rocket League came to the Switch, which is obviously one of my favorite games, and the quality on the Switch,
Just say it's bad. Just say it's
it's
bad.
terrible.
Just say
Um, so that's my biggest concern. But I do see potential with the Steam Deck. This is obviously Valve's first introduction into this, and I could see them going and making another one that ends up having a 1080p resolution with at least 120 hertz.
Here's my absolute favorite thing about the Steam Deck, okay? So obviously your Switch has room for its own proprietary controllers and all that. Steam Deck's got USBs on it. Steam Deck has
Yes.
Bluetooth 5.0 on it. Peripherals all day. You want to go sit in a Starbucks while stuff's going on at home? You plug a headset in, or you hook up your Bluetooth headset to it. This isn't Bluetooth. I don't know why. You hook your keyboard up to it. You sit there and you play like you normally would on a
Uh,
smaller screen.
those headphones are definitely Bluetooth. The wire is just for show.
Yeah, this is just an antenna. That's all it is. This is an 8-foot antenna that goes right into the back of my computer. So moving on, we do have a couple big releases coming out, and Michael, I know you're excited for both of them, so I'll let you kind of take the reins on this.
So,
Um,
so the first one I
this,
want to talk about, and I'm super excited for it because I am a big DC fan, is Gotham Knights. So Gotham Knights, and on their website, it's supposed to kind of take place after Arkham Knight, and I don't want to do too much spoilers if you haven't finished Arkham Knight. Um, Obviously, at the end of Arkham Knight, Batman dies. Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't played it. But with this
Spoilers, but
Gotham,
go ahead. It's fine.
yeah, yes, go ahead, but it's fine.
It's been
Um,
5 years.
if you haven't played it, oh well. But basically, it's saying that I'll read the exact quote on their website. A new expansive criminal underworld has swept the streets of Gotham City. It is now up to Batman's family, Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin to protect Gotham, bring hope to its citizens, discipline to its cops, and fear to its criminals. From solving mysteries that connect the darkest chapters in the city's history to defeating notorious villains and epic confrontations, you must evolve into the new Dark Knight and save the streets from descent into chaos. What's great about this is it is an open world action RPG, and it's set in Gotham City, and you can either play solo or with one of the other heroes and patrol Gotham's 5 boroughs and drop in on criminal activity.
So I think that's probably my favorite part about it is that co-op option. And you and I are always talking about we need something new to play. We need something new to get into. Rocket League's getting boring. We're bad at Rocket League this week. We just don't have a lot of options. But with this, we're both big DC fans. We're both big comic fans. This gives us a co-op experience to go in and play together. So I'm actually really excited about this too. But I do have some concerns. I'm the downer guy. It's what I do. Just like any other AAA title we've seen this year, is it got pushed back again. This was originally supposed to be released in late 2021, and now it's set for some time in 2022. Anytime a AAA title that's coming off a controversial release, Arkham Knight was not universally loved. The PC port was awful. Anytime you see that with a AAA title like this, you get worried. And I'm a little concerned that we're going to see some of those issues that we had before. I'm a little concerned it's not going to be a seamless transition to PC again. We're going to have to wait for 2 or 3 patches. But then again, getting pushed back is not always a bad thing. So that's going to be an interesting one to see. I would have liked to get it this year because I had read about it, but we'll see how it goes.
I'm just super excited that we're going to be able to play more than just one character in this game. So if you
Oh
want,
yeah,
you can either play as the Red Hood, Robin, Nightwing, or Batgirl, and not just be limited to one character, which is great.
yeah. I'm excited about that too. I think it'll be a cool experience. We kind of got that taste in the DLCs for the rest of the Arkham series. If you played them, you got to play as Catwoman at one point,
Hmm.
a little bit of Harley Quinn. You got to play as Nightwing for a very short period of time. But like I said, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about this game, and I'm a little bit concerned. But we did have another big one that's a bit more promising that we saw.
And I am super excited about this as well. Uh, I know Aaron has a little bit of mixed feelings. He's excited, but it whole other story.
We'll
Uh,
explain that.
so our next release that's coming out is Hogwarts Legacy. And this is the new Harry Potter game that is going to be an open world action RPG. Obviously, with the Harry Potter game, it's your basic story. You start out and what is it, the 1800s as a character that's going to Hogwarts, and you've got to solve mysteries. And it's pretty much the same backstory as kind of like the Hogwarts game on the phones, but it's open world, and it's like the last actual Harry Potter game that I think that we had was back on the.
I
It was, I think it was back on the GameCube, and I think it was
I
Prisoner
remember
of
playing
Azkaban.
I played Goblet of Fire on the PS2. Um, I don't know if that was the most recent, but that's the most recent I played. I know there was Lego Harry Potters.
Those aren't the same to me.
It's not. Here's what I think is really cool about this, though, is first of all, for those of you like me who have been disenfranchised from Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling has nothing to do with this game. She might get a little bit of royalty because it's got the Hogwarts name in it, but she had nothing to do with the story, nothing to do with the writing, nothing to do with the production. So if you've got an issue with her, this game should still be good for you. It also has nothing to do with Harry Potter. This is the first entry into the Hogwarts series that we've seen that doesn't include Harry Potter in any way, shape, or form, as far as we know. And I think that's a really smart move by Warner Brothers to start trying to expand this out into something a bit newer. Um, from what I've read, according to um, Tech Radar, there's not really a whole lot of the intricate sorting hat kind of thing, but I really think that's okay, personally. I think you're going to see a lot more people picking Gryffindor than should be in Gryffindor, but
That is probably my one downfall, like my downside of this game, is I do kind of wish that there was a way that it kind of sorted you instead of you just being able to pick your own house. Um, I don't know how they would be able to introduce that without taking a quiz or something like that, but some way to randomize which house you get sorted into, kind of.
so I do want to talk about the story a little bit if we can. There's not a whole lot known about it. As Michael said, it is set before in the 1800s, which is long before Harry Potter's even born. If you remember, the last movie and last book actually fasts forward to like 2017, so it's got nothing to do with that. You play as a student that has a very unique ability that can perceive, learn, and master ancient magic very quickly. Um, what I'm excited about is the tagline on the website is only you can decide if you will protect this secret for the good of all or yield to the temptation of sinister magic. I'm excited about that line specifically because I grew up playing Mass Effect. Mass Effect is one of my favorite games of all time. What's cool about Mass Effect is your choices actually matter. And there are a lot of games that say your choices matter, but they don't. So I'm excited to see how this plays it out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how if your choices actually matter in this game.
So the last thing we're going to, or sorry, before we move on, um, it is slated for a 2022 release as well. This, as far as I know, has not been pushed back. That is the original release date. So we got a little bit of a wait to go, but I'd be excited to check it out when it comes.
But I have a feeling with everything that's been going on with COVID, it'll probably get pushed back a little bit.
Especially with Warner Brothers Studios already pushing back Gotham Knights. So it really just depends where their priorities lie at this point. But the last game we're going to talk about before moving on is a bit less well known. It's got more of a cult following than anything, and Michael actually brought this up to me. It's a game called Stray. It's the debut entry from a studio called Blue 12, and it will be released by the developer of the game Outer Wilds, which is a relatively popular game, Annapurna Interactive. This game follows a stray cat exploring a world controlled by robots who have destroyed all of humanity. It takes place in a Tokyo-style game, or a Tokyo-style environment. And what's worrisome to me, at least, I don't know, Michael, if you've had this experience, is I was an early backer for We Happy Few, which was one of these games that sounded like it was so much hype, so much excitement, it's going to be great, and then it was disappointing. Any first entry, any crowd-funded kind of game is a bit concerning. But Michael, you're the one who brought this up to me. What do you think?
I just think it's gonna be interesting. I wouldn't say it's gonna be a top seller. It's one of those games that, yeah, you've got all these Call of Duty games, first person shooters, open world, action RPGs, all this other stuff that you play as characters. This game you're playing as a cat. And it's just interesting to me. Like you roam these streets as a cat and you're not supposed to be caught by like these robots or whatever. And there is apparently going to be a combat system in this. I don't know how that's going to work because in the trailer it didn't show any actual gameplay footage. It only
You're walking down the street. There's a fly. Swat at it.
but it didn't show any gameplay footage. But the other thing that's interesting is this is a PS5 exclusive. Luckily for us, it's also going to be releasing on PC.
Yep.
So it's going to be on Steam, and it does say, let's see, where did it say when it was going to be released?
I believe it's coming out late this year. I believe I read it's coming out holiday 2021. So keep an eye out for it. Or if you have any other information about it, let us know. It's not something we really found a lot of information on because it is one of those like underground kind of games. But from there, we're going to move on to big tech releases. And Michael, you found something really cool this week.
So to kind of branch off of last week, I was scrolling and I happened to find a product by Razer that is quite interesting because we were talking about the giant egg last week, and Razer is coming out with kind of the same thing called Project Brooklyn. And essentially, what Project Brooklyn is it's pretty much the same thing as the giant egg or the Acer. What is it? The Acer Predator or whatever it's called.
I believe that's what it's called. We'll call it Predator for now because I don't know how to read.
But the cool thing about the Project Brooklyn is it's not a full battle station. It's essentially a Razer game chair that has a arm on the back of it that like retracts your monitor so that way it's hidden, which is really cool to me. So that way it's not like stationary all the time and it's not big and bulky.
To me, this feels a lot more practical than what we've seen. So I come out of a moving industry, okay? So that's what I used to do. I did it for a year and a half. So this is kind of my idea for it is the Predator and the egg look huge. They look unwieldy. They look like once they're in place, you're not getting them anywhere else. So it's kind of going to be an issue with that. This seems more like a practical thing because in reality, it's just like a game chair like we're sitting in. It's static, so it doesn't have wheels. It doesn't move much, which makes sense. And it just has a screen that comes over the top. I think it's a lot more practical. It's going to be probably a lot more affordable for the average consumer. It's still probably going to be 5-6 grand, which is relatively affordable. But you've got people buying $10,000 Mario watches. So who am I to say?
This is
So
true.
I'm actually excited about that. Just see how it goes.
I am a little worried about the price because it is a Razer product.
Razer likes to put their sticker on things and call it super expensive, which
It's just
it
like
happens.
It's just like Apple. I
It's
mean,
Apple, Corsair, Acer, Asus. If it's got one of the big names on it, it's going to be more expensive. But Razer, in their defense, makes very good products.
they do.
A lot of times it's overpriced, but they make good stuff. I think I'm also a little worried about this, that it doesn't really have any way to. It doesn't look comfortable. Is that fair to say? It doesn't really have a footrest. It doesn't have much way to lean back or get comfy. It really just looks like a chair. I can actually do it with mine. It looks like it's just a chair that just sits here like this all day, with a gaming chair, which, at least for me, I can't just sit here like this all day. I have to move around. I have to, swivel, rock. It just makes it a bit more comfortable. But
That's
that
it.
being said,
That's that ADD.
it's that ADD kicking in. Oh boy. Um, but like we said, it's less of a full battle station than it is a gaming station. So maybe it's designed for, hey, put it in the corner of your room, hook your PC up, sit there, game for a while, and then go do something else. Maybe it's not designed to be that kind of thing. I think kind of the big selling point that we've seen, though, is it looks cool, but it's got what's called hypersense technology. So if you've ever been to like the zoo or something and got those 4D theaters that like shoot stuff in your back and all that kind of thing, it's supposed to be like that. So if you're playing a game, you'll feel the vibration. If you're driving a car, it'll bounce a little bit. I think that's going to be really cool, but I also think that's going to drive up the price.
I honestly, you just made me think of this. I think that's what this is mainly gearing towards. Is those
Yeah,
enthusiasts that like to play racing simulation
yeah,
games and have a
oh
steering
yeah.
wheel and pedals, or even flight simulator games, because the screen and how it goes around, it's supposed to give you a more fully submersive experience. And when you're playing a racing game with a steering wheel and pedals, or a flight game with a flight stick,
You want to feel it.
that, and then you have that like 3D space where you see stuff in your peripherals and everything.
Yeah. I think that's going to be. I think I agree with you. That's going to be a big selling point. That's going to be a big introduction point. Um,
Oh, and don't
I think
forget, it is powered by Razer Chroma. Gotta point that out
Razer
there.
Chroma, so it's gonna be pretty.
Got that
Um,
RGB.
so Michael, you kind of had the share of the big finds this week. I'll let you bring up this next thing too. Uh, our super expensive find for the week.
Yeah, I always find the super expensive stuff that I can't afford because I'm like, this is cool. So the next thing that I found is the LG's rollable OLED TV, and it's coming out for $100,000. Now, to me, for a TV, that's just crazy. But looking at this thing, it's pretty insane. It's a TV that essentially comes out of this stand and like raises up, and then when you're not using it, or lowers down, which is really cool. So it's like, if you're a decorator and you have the money to spend on this, it's great. But it's a TV. It's a 65-inch TV.
Yeah, I'm not. So here's the big selling point for it. So it is $100,000, which for the technology, it's literally a TV that rolls up. So that's pretty impressive. So I can give some pricing point there. It has a built-in built-in 100-watt Dolby Atmos stereo cabinet, which is like top of the line stuff. It's gonna play video games at 40K quality with 120 hertz refresh rate. That's impressive. There are a lot of monitors that don't. You get a 4K screen. Okay, cool, 65 hertz. That's what you get. That's impressive. That's high tech. I think what's funny is we saw on the website, it says they'll deliver it with your white glove service, homie. If I'm paying $100,000 for this, it better come gift wrapped.
This is true. It does say customers will receive white glove delivery and installation service to ensure a seamless setup experience.
So on the other hand of the pricing spectrum, I'm a big headphones guy. I'm a big audio guy, sound guy. Obviously, I pay money for my audio stuff. But on the other end is the Pixel Buds Series A. So this is one that I wanted to talk about because I had the original design. I thought they were clunky, they were tinny, the audio quality wasn't great, and they didn't fit in your ears. But after that launch, Google took the criticism, which, wow, Google listened to something. That's surprising. They took a step back from the wireless audio game, haven't really released a whole lot in that studio, and rebooted the program with their newest release, which is the Google Buds Series A. It's got a 12 mil speaker, passive noise reduction. It's got a 5-hour listening time or 2.5 talking time, which, when compared to the AirPods or the Galaxy Buds, is lower. It's not as impressive. But that being said, at only $99, they're a good lower budget option. You're not going to be spending a whole lot of money. Whereas a pair of Galaxy Buds, you can spend close to $200 on some. The AirPods are probably $9,000 because they've got Apple's signature on them. I think they're a good budget option. I think they're going to be good. I'll probably purchase a pair just so I can give a follow-up, let you know what I think about them. But I'm excited to see how they do.
I do love in the advertisement because you mentioned that the listening time is 5 hours and 2.5 hours of talk time,
Mm-hmm.
but their advertisement says a battery that barely needs a break.
So I think what they're saying is that that's another good point they brought up in the ad. I think it said like 30 minutes of charging time will give you like 3 hours. So okay, you plug it in for a little bit, come back. That's pretty nice. That's pretty cool. But again, you and I sat on the phone when we worked together on our Galaxy Buds for 6-7 hours a day talking and had no problems. So it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting release, and I'm definitely gonna check it out. But let's go ahead and roll into our news stories. This is gonna be our last segment for today. And it's kind of the big thing that we kind of push forward every day is our news stories of the week. So, Michael, what do you got for us?
A follow up on the Galaxy Buds, there is a news story that has come out from The Verge, which, let's be honest, certain things with
It's
The
The
Verge is a little iffy. But
They're good at
that's
reporting. Don't let them teach you how to build a computer.
great one. But apparently, there has been a lot of counterfeit wireless earbuds being seized in record numbers at the U.S. border. And from what I've seen is that there's a lot of AirPods, Galaxy Buds, and apparently it's valued to be $62.2 million worth of product that has been what's the word I'm looking for? Seized in the first 9 months of this year.
Which
So
is crazy. That's crazy.
it is crazy, and it's crazy to me that there's these people out there that are trying to pass off AirPods and Galaxy Buds as real. Now, I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there that order things off of Wish that
Don't order
claim
things on the wish.
that claim to be the real thing. And a lot of times they get them. They look pretty close to the real thing, but you can tell they're not real.
Well, and what's cool about that, actually, you bring that up, is the article said that a lot of the AirPods that have come are so close to the original spec that they believe that somebody inside an Apple factory stole and sold one of the molds for the AirPods. Um, so it's kind of a crazy thought that somebody's like, "Hey, man, we hate Apple. Go sell their stuff."
Now, my thing is I get it's a copyright thing. Um, but you've got all these different brands that make headphones that you can get from like Walgreens, CVS, and stuff like that that look like AirPods. Obviously, the batteries aren't as good and everything, but they're cheaper. And if you're, like you said, with the Google Buds, if you're looking for something cheap and quick, if like let's say you're on a road trip and you need a pair of earbuds, what's wrong with having some that are just fake AirPods essentially?
It's when you start selling them on the secondhand market that there starts to be issues. So what this really teaches you is you got to buy from reputable sources, which in the modern computer era is kind of a hard thing to do. You've got the GPU market in the state that it's in. You've got counterfeit stuff being sold all over the place. And that's why I was interested to find this week that NZXT has kind of, which is surprising of all companies, NZXT has kind of taken the forefront lately of building PCs for MSRP. Michael, do you have this up on the screen so you can follow along with me?
The shipping in 2 days. Yes.
Yep. Or the one below that, it's the gaming builder.
You
The
want the
PC
game?
builder.
You want the gaming builder pulled up? I've got that pulled up.
So what I did is I heard or I read through I think it's what PC built PCgaming.com, PCgamer.com. I read that NZXT has been selling computers with brand new parts and get them to you under a week, which again, like I said, in today's market is absolutely ridiculous. So I was curious. So I went in. You've got a really nice screen here. It's got a good setup, and you've got a spot where you say start your build. So I went with AMD, and I set a budget of $2,000 that I really didn't intend on spending. So
Hey,
I
do you
wasn't going to actually buy this.
want to share your screen so that you can show
Yeah,
everybody?
I'll go ahead and do that. I'll take over this part. I will take that over. Um, so this the setup is very nice. You've got a very straightforward screen here. There's a big purple button that says start your build. So it brings you in here. It gives you some options, which is really nice. So you have the 1080, or if you want to go 4K, you got your 1440. But we're going to keep it at 1080 because that's what most gamers are going to do.
I
It gives
want
you an option to help you decide what chipset you use too, which is really really nice.
I want to say
Um,
something real quick.
Go ahead.
This is the first time I'm seeing this. I love that when you're picking the 1080 or 1440p, it's pulling some of the most popular games and it's showing you what frames per second you're gonna get from these games.
I'll be honest with you. This is not a sponsorship. This is not endorsement. This is something I genuinely came across. I'm very impressed with NZXT. I've been critical of them in the past. I don't like a lot of their products. I think a lot of their cases have airflow problem. That being said, I'm going to show you why I really like this. So we're going to go ahead and just click on AMD because it's superior by far. Even though they're telling you the FPS is higher, don't listen to them. We're going to go to continue to build, which brings up this screen. This is a fully customizable screen. So we already picked the AMD chipset. What I'm most impressed with is when you go to the motherboard, CPU, and GPU section. So we click on the GPU, and we're starting with a basic 2060, and it's showing you how much it's going to cost. Or actually, yeah, we have to. It's starting at nothing. Actually, there's nothing in this spot, so it's giving you options um, based on the basic price. So you want a 3060, we'll go up to 240. That's going to add about $240. The 3070 is looking around $560, $600, which is MSRP. You go up to the 3080, that's getting more in the $800 range. That's MSRP. And then the 3090 even, it's going to add about $1,200 to your price, but that's MSRP. You go anywhere and you find some of these cards, it's going to be a ridiculous amount of money. You're going to be paying $1,200 for a 3060 Ti, which is stupid. They even have the new current gen processors at MSRP. Motherboards, they did just release their brand new one. Looks like they don't have it on here yet. Check that out if you haven't. They're giving you Trident Z Royal RAM. I'm thoroughly impressed with this. So we'll go ahead and put an 850 watt power supply in here. It did just crash because I pressed too many buttons. But I think it's a really cool idea because it helps people decide how we're building, what we're building, and where we're building. It's showing you where the cost is coming from, and it's giving you these top of the line pieces without having to pay a stupid amount of money. So that's all I've got today, Michael. If you've got any other comments about this, what are you thinking?
I think it's great. And what's cool is if let's say you set a budget of like you said, $2,000, and you start going through adding graphics cards or power supply or whatever, and it starts going above that budget because I did notice you started adding graphics card and you were above like $3,000.
It shows you the cost.
But if you wanted to, you could downsize like certain, downgrade certain products. Like honestly, you really don't need a Ryzen 9, but
Get a Ryzen 5.
you can get a Ryzen 5 with a 2060 and it's going to work great. But it's all at MSRP and you're not getting charged out the rear for graphics card because that's the biggest thing right now is graphics cards are ridiculous.
So, like I've said, I have been critical in the past of NZXT. I'm not a fan of a lot of their cases. I think they do have cooling problems. Um, but if you're looking to build a PC and you're a little frustrated with where the market is, you can't find anything affordable, paying $2,100 for a decent case, a good motherboard, top of the line processor, top of the line graphics card, that's not bad at all. And I think when you end up paying that service fee that they do pay to build it, you got to come out ahead. So that's all I got today, Michael. What do you got? Anything else?
That is all I've got for this episode. Stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to be posting on Mondays, around 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
We are on social media. We are going to put those in the description below. He runs the Facebook. I run the Twitter. So if you want to talk to us, interact with us, give us some ideas, send us links, we're always happy to see that. So
We've also got a Discord channel that is linked in our YouTube. I've got the Facebook link on our YouTube and the Twitter link on our YouTube. If you want to join our Discord, just read the rules and join our Discord. We talk about a lot of things. This isn't just tech news that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be doing other videos. Aaron's got
yeah,
a
yeah.
setup that he's going to want to do, talking about Magic the Gathering and D&D because he's big into that.
Yeah, I'll talk about that real quick. Because we're each going to be bringing on our own projects. This is kind of something new to us, is the YouTube thing. I'm huge into tabletop board games at the moment, especially Magic the Gathering, D&D. I'm getting Eldritch Horror next week, which I'm going to try and do a series on. So keep an eye out for those. We're going to be putting out more than just your standard sitting here listening to us talk about stuff content. So
let us. Not everyone wants to sit here and listen to us talk.
But we're the nerds, and you heard, and you have a good night.
Dude.